What's up? We got Arrow Season 3, Episode 11, Midnight City. So, this episode is one of my least favorite episodes of Arrow. I'll get to why very soon, but I just got finished watching it, and I can say, without a doubt, this is Arrow's worst episode written. So, yeah, this episode starts off with Laurel, defeating the Black. This episode starts out with the Black Canary saving a girl from a rapist or a murderer, and that's when Roy shows the Black Canary can't fight him. That's when Roy shows up, and he's like, yeah, we gotta talk." So then we see Oliver somewhere in a cabin near the Parbat, and yeah, so he's like, yeah, Tatsu reveals the human sale aren't in contact anymore, and yeah, so he's like, hey, so then we get back to the Laurel stuff. Yeah, Felicity's in this episode. Felicity's, so Diggle is like, so Roy's like, what are you doing? And she's like, the arrow's gone. They need the Black Canary. And he's like, well, you're doing what you guys are doing. And he's like, no, I had training from Oliver and years on the street. You're a lawyer. Yeah, and then Diggle comes in and says, Laurel, what do you think you're doing? You're not certified to wear your sister's. What do you think you're doing? You're not certified to wear your sister's mask. And she's like, the Canary, they fear her. The arrow's gone now. And I'm doing what he did. I'm doing what, they feared the arrow, and now they fear the Canary. And they're like, no, Laurel, they feared your sister. So, yeah, so then Quentin comes in to still be oblivious to this whole Sara being dead situation, because the writers decided to write Quentin as an oblivious guy, where he says, oh, did you hear from Sara? And she's like, why? Because the girl came in saying that woman in black saved her from a bunch of killers. Like, yep, strike one for why this episode is terrible. Why strike two? Why this episode is terrible? That comes later. But this episode is really bad. This episode bad, everybody. I don't like this episode. It's really bad. And do you know why it's bad? Because of Laurel Lance. They really wrote her as a really terrible character. So yeah, So I really don't like the flashbacks in this season either. They're really boring and yeah, they're really boring. They're not all that great and like at least Lee and you flashback, however, doing something with his friend. He just pals around with Maseo and just stops Hong Kong villains. Like, that's not interesting at all. That's just way to patent out the runtime of each episode. You have to have a flashback so you have them in Hong Kong. That's not great. I'm bored with these flashbacks. I don't even watch these flashbacks. At least with the Lee and You flashbacks, I watched the Lee and You flashbacks when they got interesting. But is this flashback series interesting? No, it's not. So I'm not going to be watching them or mentioning them at all because they're boring. One of my reactors said they were boring, so they're boring. So I don't like them. So anyway, so Brick says, so we have a new mayor. Her name is Mayor Castle. She just became mayor for the sake of this episode. We don't know how she got in office. We don't know why she got in office. She's just mayor. That's what she is. She's just mayor for this episode. And then Ray and Felicity show up. And I'm like, why is Ray here? The guy from Riverdale, Walter Weatherby, he plays an alderman who gets killed. If this episode's not going to try it, why should I? Wait a minute. I actually care about what my audience thinks. So I'm gonna go into this episode, even though this episode is really bad and really terrible. I'm gonna go into this episode and try to do my best at tackling this terrible episode. So yeah, so Laurel is seen talking. So Felicity shows up. Yeah. So Felicity shows up and Quentin's like, "Hey, yeah, Sarah's back," and she's like, "Wait, Sarah's back? How do you know?" And she's like, "There's been a vigilante in black leather taking on Brick's gang," and Felicity's like, yeah, okay, Quentin, you're really oblivious to all this, but okay." He's really oblivious to all this. He can't just be, yeah. I understand why he thinks it's Sarah, because they don't even show Laurel's face at any of the scenes that Quentin sees it. So yeah, so she's like, so he calls her later while she's talking with Laurel, and she's like, "Hey, you really think the arrow's dead?" And she's like, "Yeah, but the arrow's gone, yeah, but there might be a canary." So let me see one of my least favorite scenes in the entire show. Laurel calling Quentin pretending to be Sara. Yes, this is terrible. This is manipulating this man, Laurel. You went from manipulating by him thinking that Sarah's dead, by Sarah's alive, but now you're calling him pretending to be his dead daughter. What? And Felicity's just okay with this, saying she got the feed from Sarah's voice. Like, I'm not okay with this. This is one of the worst decisions. They rate Felicity as okay with manipulating this man, manipulating Quentin. They rate Laurel as one. Like, why would Laurel even do this? I don't like Laurel. She's terrible. This season really made her out to be unlikable and not caring for her dad. Because if she actually cared for him, she would notice his feelings and not do this. But since they're writing her as an unlikable and uncaring jerk, she's manipulating this man. Quentin, I feel bad for you that you have Laurel, because she's just manipulating you. She won't tell you the truth about Sarah's death, so she instead manipulates you into believing Sarah's alive by calling you and calling you by pretending to be Sara. I hate this episode. This episode's the worst. And it's because of this scene right here. When I saw this just now, I was like, no, this could not be happening. But I had to watch as Laurel manipulated my boy Quentin. I cannot believe that the show would go and do this to him. He's the best character out of all the characters that have been turned into unlikable and unrealistic jerks. I'm sorry, Quentin, that you had to be on a show like this. Had to be on a season like this. They could just... I'm sorry. I don't... There's also a storyline where... Yeah, last episode, Merlin, was telling... I forgot to mention in my review for episode 10. But Laurel wants... But Merlin wants Thea to leave Starling City because... But she won't do it until she learns the truth. So he's but Roy's like, hey, she'll learn the truth about it. Roy's like, hey, you made her kill Sara. And she's like, Thea doesn't know about Sara, and she'll never will. And he's like, I could just tell her. And he's like, hey, this is a family matter, Mr. Harper, and you're not part of our family, so be quiet. This guy is an absolute jerkwad. And yeah. I do not like this episode. This episode is terrible. It's one of my least favorite. I just watched it, and I cannot believe it's one of my least favorite since out there. Laurel manipulates Quentin. Felicity's okay with her doing this. Like why would Felicity be okay with it? Does she even care about this man's feelings? She's just okay with her being there, calling him, pretending to be Sara, and they give her a reason on how she did this. I don't get it. Why does this episode do this to my boy Quentin? I don't like this episode. It's bad. Don't watch this episode. This episode, if you're a big Quentin supporter and you don't like how they did how they're writing Laurel's character this season, don't watch this episode. This episode just makes Laurel into an unlikable and uncharacteristic jerk who cares more more about hurting her father's feelings and telling him the truth. I don't care about this episode. This episode is bad. It's trash. It's terrible. We do learn that Chase is actually working for the League of Assassins at the end. You know, Chase, the guy that kissed Thea and is her DJ. Yeah, he's working with the League now. I don't like this episode. This episode is bad. It's not that good. And I cannot wait to go on to the next one. I hope the next episode is way better than this one. I'm sorry, Arrow, but I have to give you an F. Because you failured. Because you messed up. I'm giving this episode an F because I totally didn't like it. It's terrible. It's terrible because I'm a big Quentin supporter and I like Laurel. But they're just writing her into a they're writing her into a jerk character. Because why she even... I'm done. Alright. I'm done with this episode. And I'll see you next time for some more Arrow. I hope next Arrow episode is way better than this one. I do not like this episode. This episode's bad and it's very terrible. I hope other people can see that too. Bye. Arrow has really wrote itself into a hole. Bye.